As we hop into draft, though, let's see what's going to happen.
All right, let's go ahead. The bans are already underway. We are moving immediately in this first one. It's Wukong, Poppy, and Azir banned out by MKOI. Over on Fnatic's side, the Orianna, the Yunara, the Taliyah, a lot of common bans that we've seen so far throughout the tournament in these first few days. Do want to point out the very early Poppy ban priority from MKOI that stands out to me as we go over to their side, and they will first lock the Ryze there in the mid lane, most likely for Jojo.
Yeah, it's kind of been the Jojo special. He actually started to bring it out initially in the LEC and was kind of his pocket pick before everyone started to pick up on the trend. So not fully surprised to see that. On the upside, though, I think we'll get to see kind of that focus more towards the things like the Vi, maybe even the Jarvan here, because the Vi Kaisa has been the Fnatic special all year. And we'll have to see if that is going to be the plan. As no, actually going to tops over towards the Pantheon. It was Elyoya on that Pantheon in game number 1 who kind of ran Fnatic around the rift last time we saw these two teams face off. So Razork wants his chance.
I always love to see Pantheon in the game. I think the playmaking opportunity on this champion is absolutely huge, and it feels even better when you have some powerful split pushers, powerful side laners to play alongside it and really get maximum value out of that Grand Starfall. But I'm also not surprised at all to see Cassiopeia being locked in here. Always either a counter or at minimum an answer when Ryze is locked in.
And I think the Pantheon here is more about that early game aggression. Last time, it was all about the bot lane for these two teams. Who can try and come out on top? So Pantheon going to be able to facilitate that early play towards the bottom side of the map and making sure you can try and snowball, upset, or Supa out of control. But Qiyana take it for Elyoya on the opposite side. He's picked this up previously, got going on it, but couldn't actually find the win on it. So we'll have to see if MKOI can try and right those wrongs.
I think Qiyana is such an exciting champion to watch in the jungle. Assassin junglers in general, because it is much more feast or famine than something like a tank, like a utility pick. You need to get rolling. You need to stay ahead of the curve. You need to keep your economy going. And the impact you can have from knowing that exact timing of when you need to go in, when to place that big, supreme display of talent. If that ultimate can live up to its name, Elyoya can define the game.
It is going to be kind of hard, though. You're up against the Cassiopeia, who has that miasma, who has that lockdown. Same with the Pantheon, so you have to be very careful here as Elyoya as to exactly when you try to go in. But Oscarinin looks like going to round out this third pick with Ambessa to answer into that Sion. So Fnatic definitely opted into it. You were already saying, Flowers, that opportunity to try and play side lanes with this Ambessa and trying to then set up for a strong team fight as well with this Cassiopeia as that main DPS.
And I do like seeing the Cassiopeia already on the lineup since Sion is locked in on the enemy team. We've seen multiple games so far throughout Worlds 2025 where Sion is locked and the enemy team does not have the damage to get through him, and he just becomes an unstoppable brick wall. So Fnatic is going to be charged with the tall task of dealing with the massive meatball there in the top lane.
And I think for Fnatic, they're kind of hoping they can avoid the meatball in some of these team fights, right? If you have an Ambessa and you can get off to an early lead, there's always a chance you can draw that Sion to a side lane, make it a little bit more difficult for him to participate in these fights. And especially if Fnatic can start up with, you know, already the Pantheon as this strong engage, you can look towards something like a Nautilus or an Alistar or even the Rel for making that bottom side. That is where they can try and focus. But for MKOI, I mean, it looks like they're going to be able to move themselves over towards strong engage for Alvaro, which has been their comfortable spot. And then Supa, he has been spectacular. Honestly, like top 2 of the AD carries that we have in the LEC right now. And it's been, as long as he's comfortable on his pick, he should be shining.
Okay, so we've got Ezreal, Nautilus, Tristana, Nico, all banned away here in this second half. Xayah immediately slammed there by Fnatic. Always a great pick going up against something that's going to try to one-shot assassinate you like a Qiyana. What do we want to see from MKOI here for their bottom lane?
I still think you have to go for some sort of engage. Like the Alistar has been an Alvaro special and has been something he's shined on. So I wouldn't be fully surprised to see that one taken here. And then for Supa, I am unsure what he wants to try and answer with. Has played things like the Zeri. Maybe they really want to try and go for something like the Caitlyn and bully out on that bot side. But the only thing I'm worried about is if you go the Caitlyn, you are kind of hitting that trough. So it will be the Zeri that he's going to answer with.
Okay, the very scary hyper carry Zeri, the thing that has terrorized League of Legends in the past in the metagame, of course, far from, yeah, exactly, there we go, picking it up. But we've got not obviously that level of Zeri in the past that had dominated the meta, but can still be a very powerful pick, very big carry throughout the game. And you have a strong front line there with the Sion. You have Ryze that can also create a lot of space around her. And now Rakan locked in next to the Zeri for that big initiation potential for the team fights.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure what the answer here was going to be from Fnatic, because Mikyx was hovering the Bard. And if you change over to the Bard, I feel like it changes a lot of the identity that Fnatic had here, because it ends up teetering more into that pick style composition with the Bard. But at least least having the Alistar here, you now have a strong front line in both the Pantheon and this Alistar that can set up now for the DPS tools of the Sion, the Cassiopeia. Whereas in MKOI side, some side lane that can be answered here with the Ryze, but definitely wanting to play that front to back with Elyoya threatening on the flank.
So, looking at both of the drafts now, we've got all 10 champions locked in. Do we feel like either side has a specific edge, or is it more of just differentiation in styles?
I think the fact that you have the Cassiopeia means that you can deal with the Sion in team fights as Fnatic. It will still be tough, but I think a lot of this is going to come down to execution. One of the things I've loved about this Qiyana Ryze combo from like the top teams that we've seen playing it, like guys from like Tarzan and that, where it's you use the Realm Warp to reposition Qiyana mid-fight so she can find a flank. And I think that's something that's really cool that you can try and do. So if MKOI have been practicing this combo, it can open up Elyoya to be a strong carry. If he's not able to get into those positions though, and Fnatic are able to play that ease of front to back, I think they should have a lot of tools to try and win out there.
All right, I'm excited to see what we get here. An LEC rematch of a head-to-head we've seen plenty of times throughout the year, but now with the biggest stakes of the year, whoever comes out on top in this best of 3 gets to stay here at Worlds at least a while longer. But one of these two teams' journeys ends here today. I want to see all the stops pulled out. I want to see both these squads bring in their best shot here. Obviously, Worlds has not gone the way they wanted it to thus far, but you can always try to turn things around, and you got to start right now. As Jojo and Poby, it's just a quick trade of a Noxious Blast for nothing there, so Poby gets first strike in mid lane.
Yeah, I think the issues that we've seen from both these teams in the LEC have only been exemplified on the main stage, where MKOI have got off to great starts, but they haven't been able to close it out. Whereas for Fnatic, it's just kind of been that team cohesion and finding the success that they really want. So I think both teams with a lot to prove, but we'll have to see who's going to be able to take it in the end.
Okay, runes on your screen right now. The thing that I always look at least throughout the past split in professional League of Legends, is the presence of the spellbook for the supports. Both of them having it this time around. Rakan versus Alistar, neither one of these two are really playing to slam the lane, so spellbook makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it just gives you options to so many options in the later portion of the games, with like teleport and being able to get it back out into the map quicker, exhaust for someone like a Qiyana that's trying to get access to your backline. It's just works so incredibly well.
And for those of us who might not be as familiar with the LEC throughout the year, Dagda, we've got the information on the screen right now for kind of how this head-to-head has gone.
Yeah, I mean, the main ones to look at are those last two, right? Like you can see in our summer playoffs, end up facing off twice. It went to 5 games the first time around. It really looked like it was coming down to the wire. But the second time we saw them face off, honestly, it was MKOI dominating for a large portion of that. And that came down to a solid game plan of, we want to access the bot lane, we want to snowball Supa and make sure we can shut down Upset and Mikyx. This time around though, having the Qiyana will make that game plan more difficult to operate on. You don't have that same kind of ease of setup on the level 3s, the level 4s to look for the dives, so this may make Pantheon a little bit easier to work with.
So checking out where our junglers are here at the very beginning, it is going to be cross-map starts for them, both of them starting on their own respective red quadrants. You're going to see Elyoya take a quick back after that first 3 camp clear just to pick up the additional longsword for the extra clearing power, as Jojo and Poby trade back and forth here in the mid lane. Jojo with the aggressive flash, though, forcing out the response flash from Poby. Only a slow on the rune prison, not a stun. So both of them very low on health, very low on mana. No flashes available for 2 immobile mid laners, Dagda. I'm feeling like this is a big flashing red light for either one of the junglers, and it's Razork swooping around this side first. We'll see if he can make this happen against Jojo, waiting for the minions to at least push up as far as they can so they don't see him early. Jojo without that flash from Razork into the point, and click stun. It's done. First blood, Fnatic.
Great response from Razork, being able to move in towards that mid lane, but Supa and Alvaro even hovering up, but not going to be able to find any success. And it's a little unfortunate from Jojo. I love the idea. He was about to hit level 3, could get the root and look for the kill, but just barely mistimed that tick over to level 3. So it was a slow rather than the stun when he hit those buttons, and it means that you actually end up with Poby escaping.
Yeah, that was tough, man. I feel like if you're going to play those aggressive early flashes, you've got to respect the possible presence of the jungler. Jojo doesn't do so, and it means that Razork gets paid early on this Pantheon, a champion that can really run away with the game if he starts to get accelerated, especially if he hits an early level 6. You catch somebody off guard with an early ultimate, but now it's MKOI invading the jungle. Razork trying to clear his blue buff here, as now it's a flash engage. Razork, remember, he already used his flash to make the play earlier, but now Jojo gets his revenge. MKOI, nice, seizing the opportunity there. Again, recognizing a flash down and pouncing.
And Jojo being able to get back into that mid with the wave pushing and bot lane pushing set them up perfectly. And I was about to say, if Elyoya got a couple of those kills at Qiyana, just as strong as a Pantheon if she can get rolling, but it's making sure that Jojo set up comfortably in the mid lane is the focus here for MKOI.
Especially after the early death, right? You don't want your Ryze to get set behind. You want to make sure he's able to keep stacking. Elyoya not grabbing the kill on that one, but still 34 to 20 in terms of the farm count, so not feeling too bad about that. Of course, the gold still mostly even between the junglers because Razork was the beneficiary of the first blood, but that was Elyoya's flash being used for that one. Qiyana, of course, a very highly mobile champion, very slippery champion with all the stealth, so not going to feel the missing the flash as much as some other champions might.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the fact that she's just been able to power farm her way through has worked out great, right? Because we had the play in the mid lane while you had the full clear coming through from the Qiyana. She got a crab, then she started to make her way in for the kill, pick up some of that CS in Razork's jungle, now going for the reset. So honestly, Elyoya is in a fantastic spot as he best to take over to level 6 as well, being able to pick up some of that early DPS.
Ooh, nice engage there from Mikyx. Headbutt pull followed up by the immediate feather root there from Upset with a blade collar. So MKOI's bottom lane duo does take a chunk of HP, but they return some good firepower themselves. They've got the wave pushing into their opponents, but Mikyx and Upset able to freeze it outside of tower range right now. That first Drake of the game has spawned as of about 30 seconds ago. Nobody putting any super early attention on that one just yet. I feel like when we have all these flashes down early, when we have these attempts on mid laners and junglers early, the Dragons are naturally going to be a bit more delayed, but Razork now looking at the bottom lane.
Looking to see if they can get the setup, but Mikyx not able to get the pulverize on the play. It was a nice call, especially as this wave is frozen, but it doesn't really matter, right? You don't get the kill, you don't get the play, but Upset still has the wave in a perfect spot for him.
Yeah, that wave frozen exactly where they want it, and Supa's walking right towards the pixel brush. Razork jumps in for the stun, but buffering through the wall there with a wall slide from Supa means the Zeri gets away very easily. Ward dropped in the Dragon Pit there from Fnatic, just to keep an eye on it, just to make sure they're not going to try to sneak that one away after seeing Razork show up down here, but instead it's the mid lane. That's your target, beautifully done from Elyoya and Alvaro to set it up for Jojo to knock it down. Kill number 2 for the Ryze, as Mikyx wanted to try to get something back here with his Alistar, but he just doesn't have the chance to do it.
And that's that unsealed spellbook that you were talking about, Flowers. TP taken from Alvaro, so in the mid, Poby thought he was safe, but Alvaro comes in on the teleport play, sets up then with his jungle, and manages to get a perfect play in that mid lane.
And here's the thing, Dagda. Yep, they put the ward in the Dragon Pit. Yep, they know that MKOI's taking it. Nope, they have nothing to say about it because their mid laner is dead. He's just making his way back out onto the map right now, and Jojo and Elyoya have plenty of damage to be able to secure this first objective. So that one's done, and nicely on top of that, if you note in the top left, it's still 50 seconds until the Void Grubs spawn, so it's not like you're losing priority over that side of the map to secure the Drake.
And it's actually Fnatic who are scrambling to try and keep some semblance of control in that regard. They move Poby to bot lane because you can't actually get the Ambessa at the top to catch that bottom wave. So it's Poby who has to move down there. Now you've got Upset is in the mid lane, and it means that if we end up going for this rotation, which I assume is going to happen for MKOI with the Zeri moving up towards those Void Grubs, you're just in a great spot as MKOI where you can push in top and have first access in towards those Void Grubs.
All right, Upset with level 6. Means we do have the ability to drop some of that aggro there with the ulti if they try to engage on him, so that's going to be a consideration here for MKOI. Mikyx's Alistar only just taking level 5 means that if we do get a grub fight, there's going to be no chance for the Alistar to be able to use the Unbreakable Will, really start the fight off with impunity. Alvaro also pretty far away from being able to have the grand entrance for this one here, as well as the Scuttle Crab is the target for Elyoya, wanting to secure that for the extra vision and control over the top side river. Alvaro and Razork both just kind of going to whiff there, so not a whole lot to be traded back and forth, but I'm seeing a lot of bodies show up to this potential grub fight, my friend.
Yeah, Fnatic really want to try and break this, but MKOI in a good spot will push mid and top, and they're going to start up the objective. At least get one. Looks like they don't want to contest for more.
First grub already secured there with the smite, and now they're going to go in. Supreme display of talent onto Mikyx. He's already down. Feet of Warfare claimed by MKOI. Razork wants to get away, but here comes the Realm Warp to seal his fate. He'll warp straight into the grave. It's a double kill for the Zeri, for Supa. It's a 4-1 game with a 2,000 gold lead, and every single grub is going to go the way of MKOI. This early game, they are slamming it.
And the fact that Fnatic couldn't match those lane assignments from MKOI came back to bite them. MKOI get pushed mid, Jojo's able to isolate Upset from being able to join in the fight, and in a 3v4, MKOI take down Fnatic.
This is a rough game state here for Fnatic now. Hex flash over the wall though from Mikyx. Here comes your Grand Starfall from Razork. Supa's gonna die for sure. Shut down for Razork means Fnatic at least gets something back there to staunch the bleeding.
Yeah, still, the kill going to Razork isn't ideal. They would have liked to have given that to Oscarinin to try and have something, but Mikyx gone too far forward.
Yeah, Mikyx very far forward into enemy territory. The Alistar's got to be careful here. Elyoya does a lot of damage on this Qiyana. Oscarinin returning a little bit of fire, just trying to create an escape route here for his support. But now Oscarinin locked down. Jojo cannot arrive in time, however. No flash available on that Ryze to try to get in there for the extra damage. Mikyx down to 50 HP. Brother, you have got to get out of here.
Yeah, I think if you want to stick around, it's not going to be a good time for Mikyx. May not be for Oscarinin as well. Again, the overextension from Mikyx causing so many members of Fnatic to try and join, and now Jojo control over the wave, denying Oscarinin in the back. Like, MKOI are dominating this early game.
This is about as much as I think you could ask for. You've already claimed Feat of Warfare. You're up 1,500 gold. One more objective. They're also going to secure the feats in their entirety because they secured first Drake plus those Void Grubs. It's still about 2 minutes out until we get the next Drake spawning on the map. However, as Jojo crashes this practically double-stacked wave into the turret here, into the tier 1, wants to get this first play, does a lot of damage to Oscar, but now got to be a little bit careful. Here's public execution. Jojo taking a ton of damage from the initial Ambessa burst. Teleport coming in to try to save Jojo, but he cannot stay alive long enough. Nice pickup there from Fnatic.
And a much needed pickup for Fnatic. The fact that they'd already started to lose out across the board, and now Oscarinin gets something back, opens up that opportunity for him to be a threat on side lanes and a big threat in those team fights. Nicely done by Fnatic, as MKOI might be looking to answer back here as they move in towards the jungle.
Okay, Mikyx now with the level 6 on the Alistar has Unbreakable Will. Far harder to catch him out and burst him down like we saw in the fight by the Grubs. Razork jumping in after Alvaro. Mikyx wants to go over the wall to follow it up, but a nice escape there from MKOI to not get caught.
Alvaro has been so slippy when it comes to Mikyx's engages. Time and again he's been able to step away from them, and it just leaves Fnatic wanting. Poby though has been able to sit in the side lane at least for a little while and, you know, get some of this farm and get into a position where he's relatively comfortable, but it's a long way from Fnatic scaling into this game.
Speaking of scaling, just checking in on where we are with itemization here, because we are seeing first items come online in a few different roles. You've got the Eclipse for Ambessa, makes her trading patterns that much more brutal in the lane. Sundered Sky and Profane Hydra available for the 2 junglers, and Rod of Ages for Jojo stacking up. Both mid laners stacking their tiers about 2/3 of the way done already, but the big difference is that Jojo has that Rod online earlier. It means he's going to hit 10 stacks earlier. It means that that's going to be another point of power that MKOI could potentially play around later on in the game.
Yeah, and it's where they have been putting their focus, right, is having, hey, Jojo in a side lane, we're going to try and play off of his pressure into potential invades, into putting down wards, and now it's opening up that opportunity to keep pressure on both mid and bot, start up Dragon, and I mean, for Fnatic, they need someone to try and face check it, but I don't know who does.
All right, top side, neither one of these top laners has their teleport available to join the bot side fight, so it is just going to be a 4v4, unless you can try to get Sion out of the lane and use the ulti, but no, the Dragon is already secured, and considering Elyoya and Alvaro both have the ability to just exit safely through the back of the pit. However, Supa dropping the lightning crash there versus Upset. Does not want to take any more of the fight, though, considering Mikyx was nearby, would be able to turn that into an unfair fight very quickly.
Yeah, this is great start though from MKOI. 2 dragons to their name, already with a gold lead, and there just doesn't really seem to be a way for Fnatic to break this. You now are so far behind, it just makes it difficult, and in the goal difference you can see at the bottom of your screen, whoever got the gold lead fairly much went at the game. Razork, can you try and change that?
Yeah, he wants to try to alleviate some of that gold lead, but the Grand Starfall just ends up resulting in a whole lot of nothing. So Pantheon ulti ending up being a whiff. That feels so painful. The cooldown on that ultimate is pretty long. You really want to get value whenever you're making those plays, because not only are you not getting the value you hoped for, now your opponents have 2 minutes to just sit there and say, okay, we don't have to worry about Pantheon all. We can make the map moves we want to make.
It does feel a bit bizarre to be trying to play around Poby though in this sort of regard, because one of the things I love about Pantheon and Ambessa is that setup, but Mikyx wants to be that setup. Yeah,
Mikyx trying to set it up for the Cassiopeia, gets trapped in the Rune Prison here as Jojo wants to buy a little time with the phase rush. Elyoya's coming around from the side. Jojo wanted to use the Realm Warp to get away, but he's trapped in the Petrifying Gaze. Redemption coming down, but Jojo is already dead. Elyoya cannot arrive in time. Nicely done from Fnatic to get another pick onto Jojo. That's 3 of their 4 kills on the enemy mid laner, and the game is tied up, at least in kill regards.
Yeah, and at least it's going to Poby, who can do some damage in team fights. And again, you've got that decent setup where instead of trying to come in with the Grand Starfall, where you've plenty of time to try and run away, especially on a phase rush Ryze, they actually managed to get the flank and set it up. MKOI trying to respond to the mid lane, but Fnatic starting to move out and should be in the position to defend this.
Yeah, MKOI continuing to try to get some value out of those Void Grubs they secured earlier. And honestly, ever since the Void Grub fight, we haven't really seen a lot out of MKOI. They managed to secure the Dragon, but they haven't made any plays against their opponents specifically. So Fnatic have done a good job being able to fight back a little bit, because remember, right after the Void Grub fight that MKOI just slammed, this gold lead was 2.3 thousand gold. So Fnatic have come back into the game almost 1,500.
Yeah, and a lot of that has been them MKOI trying to set up for Elyoya with the vision and potential invades and seeing if maybe they can find Razork in the jungle, and that's kind of where you're seeing that the goal or the CS numbers in the jungle look so swayed, whereas because Poby has kind of been sitting in a sideline, despite the fact he's a kill down, still keeping within touching distance of Jojopyun on the opposite side, and it's more Supa who is kind of taking the lead for MKOI when it comes to that gold.
And the biggest gold lead individually in the game is Supa on that Zeri, like you're talking about. 700 ahead of Upset. The Rift Herald has spawned, and neither side wants to let the other one have it, but it is Fnatic first to the scene. They've got it down to about half HP already. Oscarinin here off to the side. Elyoya looking to distract him, as now MKOI wants to move forward. Fnatic all grouped up around the pit. Alvaro going in here with a quickness, as immediately Razork going to lose about half HP, but now Alvaro is all trapped up. It's the first kill going over to Fnatic. Razork still low, but he ain't dead yet. Supreme display of talent, going to find multiple targets here, but everybody on Fnatic still hanging on for now. Finally, Razork is going to die. Upset and Poby still staying alive for now, as Oscarinin is down to 200 HP. MKOI are cutting off the escapes, and they are cutting off the hopes of Fnatic. Upset and Mikyx trying to get themselves away back through the tribe rush. Elyoya and Jojo on the chase. Mikyx with the flash of the wall, but Supa is ready to tumble right after him. Upset, the last man standing. He's going to summon up the Herald to try to get away. Maybe try to take the taxi home. A little bit more damage might just be able to stop him, but no. Upset will use the Herald to be the only man on Fnatic who survived.
But that was supposed to be the only silver lining for them, and it's Upset who has to use it to escape. MKOI played that fight so incredibly well, but Razork finds Elyoya.
Yeah, Elyoya sticking around a little bit too long, perhaps. Dodges the Comet Spear there. Did not want to find himself hit by that one. Could have been a potential execution, as he does escape through the invisibility. That is Pantheon ulti down again. And there's what I was talking about. The gold lead now, the largest it's been all game, up to almost 3,500, as the Herald makes a very long walk back down the top lane. And this could be a very long journey back to the fountain, although it might actually be for MKOI, as Fnatic is ready to try to punish this invade. Alvaro first to die, as Myrwn now locked up by the Blade Caller, and it looks like he's got nowhere to go but a gray screen. Does try to pop the ulti there, is interrupted by Mikyx, and Fnatic continue the chase after the Sion. He's pretty tanky, but surely they're able to catch up to him here. Decimating Smash to try to make a little bit of extra distance, but no, it's Headbutt Pulverize, and with a shutdown going over to Upset, that's exactly what Fnatic was hoping for.
MKOI just tossed that gold lead out the window. The fact that you managed to get all those kills in the jungle, and you're going to get that top tower, plus you're getting set up for the Dragon now that's about to spawn. That was halving their gold lead just immediately off a bad play.
Oh, but the lightning crash, it's going to be Mikyx the target now, as Razork immediately gives his life over right next to it. Fnatic, they get an amazing punish. They force MKOI into a bad spot after MKOI wanted to get more in their own jungle, but then Fnatic is possessed by the same greed. They invade the MKOI jungle, they get caught out, and the damage is just massive. Now this Dragon that you're talking about, that could have been some breaks, slammed on the soul stacking, instead is just one step closer to MKOI securing a very early soul.
There's one in the name of God is going on.
This is a bit of a crazy game, my friend. We've got 18 kills in 18 minutes, but every objective sans the Herald has gone to MKOI, and the Herald had to be used as an Uber to go home for the AD carry.
Yeah, you kind of thought it was like, oh yeah, call an ambulance, but not for me when it came to the invade on the bottom side. And then Fnatic were like, no, we'd like an ambulance as well, actually, if you wouldn't mind.
Call two.
Yeah. One for me, one for you, and one for the viewers who are very upset at what has been happening. But across the board, as you say, MKOI still in a very strong position. They're now getting access to this bottom side and starting to crack open the turrets in their favor. And with Jojo having this lead, he is now in a very strong spot to actually be that threat in the side lane, can realm warp into a lot of the fights and just cause issues for Fnatic on sides. Because sure, Poby, as you can see, can eventually clear out waves, but against the Ryze, if you end up with the Qiyana coming over the wall, that 1-2 combo can be so devastating for Poby if he's left alone.
Poby's Cassiopeia, 4 stacks on his Rod of Ages, fully charged Seraph's Embrace. Over on the other side, it is 8 stacks for Jojo's Ryze on his Roa, as Elyoya with a supreme display of talent right back into the wall. Razork thought he was fighting for a red buff. He was fighting for his life, and he'll lose that fight. MKOI, they take away the enemy jungler from the map for the next 27 seconds, and now they'll just easily rotate up towards that top lane, take down the remaining tier 1 turret from Fnatic, pick a couple of flower petals along the way. They'll place him on the grave of Razork, and they'll celebrate a 5,500 gold lead.
And a well-deserved one as well. MKOI, there's been obviously hiccups here and there, but this is what MKOI has made their name from the LEC, this strong early game where they can very quickly garner these leads, start to try and play through side lanes, and when you've got this combo of Alvaro and Elyoya that is so potent with the CC into the sheer amount of DPS that this Qiyana can provide, it's difficult for Fnatic to even approach their own jungle.
Everything on that scoreboard is a blue side gold advantage in whatever role you want to pick and choose. But it's really jungle and AD carry where the 2 largest advantages find themselves. Elyoya sidestepping out of the way of the public execution. And with Ambessa not able to join up, that just means Mikyx is alone in no man's land. And MKOI pick up a free kill on the enemy support.
Yeah, and that Rakan looks fairly lonely, but I don't know if it's about to have a bunch of MKOI friends coming over to say hi in a couple of moments as well, because with the Alistar down, the TP coming in, it's an MKOI objective.
I feel like Rakan has been the same type of objective for y'all in the LEC that has been for us in the LTA throughout the year, which is if he survives until 21 minutes without somebody trying to attack him, it's pretty surprising.
Which is kind of rude if you think about it, you know?
He's just not welcome on the Rift, except this time around, because they got the free pick right beforehand, there's just no way for Fnatic to try to challenge, so it ends up being a free objective for the MKOI side. 31 petals to 13 is a ton of extra adaptive force, about 1,500 gold's worth, as Mikyx has to flash over the wall just to escape another death at the hands of the supreme display of talent. But the problem is, Dagda, that's another flash used defensively from the Alistar. That's your main engage. Flash, headbutt, pulverize, and now you don't have it. Jojo just sidestepping around Razork, takes him down to about 1/3 HP. Poby slithers into the area to be able to at least save Razork's life, but this is a 7,000 gold lead, and we are under 2 minutes until the Cloud Soul spawns. This is a very dangerous soul to give a team that has Ryze and Zeri.
Yeah, it's not going to be a fun time, and honestly, it doesn't really feel like it's been a fun time at all for Fnatic. MKOI have been finding the picks, they've been playing so well, and the last time we saw Elyoya actually bring out the Qiyana, he got off to a fantastic early game lead, but they couldn't find ways to enable him in team fights to actually carry that gold lead into a victory. This time around though, he's been playing on the flanks incredibly well, he's been looking great. And for MKOI, when they have these gold leads in this tournament, it hasn't been going so great, as you can see on your screen. Even domestically, there's been a couple of hiccups, but it feels like with this sort of gold lead, it's nearly insurmountable.
Right. These ones, you know, you're looking at a couple thousand gold lead here that ends up turning into a throw. This time around, though, this is absolutely dire for Fnatic. 7,500 gold lead, 45 seconds on the clock until that Cloud Soul spawns. And you can see the map is so dark for Fnatic. Anything past their own jungle, right? The entire river is a very scary place to try to approach. Yeah, Mikyx or Razork could try. Mickey's got Unbreakable Will, Razork has his shield, but then if somebody gets caught, you're pretty much forced into a fight, and those fights are not going to go your way unless you start them off with some kind of a pick, some kind of a big engage. Mikyx with the Hex flash over the wall there real quick, as MKOI does have 4 men in the bot side river. Jojo just kind of potentially playing the bait here in the mid lane, does have his Seraphs and Rod fully charged, fully stacked. Still 2 stacks to go on the Rod of Ages for Poby, and this is what I was talking about earlier, the difference in completing that in time. Razork going for the flash engage there onto Supa, who makes the distance and gets away. Supreme display of talent, not going to get a whole lot, but Alvaro's got the quickness to start the fight off in earnest. As Oscar's already down, Mikyx struck alone in the backside of the enemy lines, as Poby's going to be melted by Elyoya. Razork can't stand any longer either, and Fnatic fall to pieces again. It's only Upset left alive. Try as he might, he can't win the fight. Fnatic are going to find themselves aced before the Dragon Soul, and MKOI have got this one all sewed up.
Fnatic are just too far behind when it comes to the gold. Even if you're not getting full value from the ultis, Alvaro sets up that engage, sets up the turnaround, and MKOI sweeping through Fnatic.
MKOI, they get themselves their clean ace. I could see the desperation. And let's take another look here in our MasterCard priceless moment of the game as Razork starts it off.
And I thought maybe you had a chance here as Fnatic, because the ultimate only hits onto Razork from the Supreme display of talent. You're not really getting full value, but this Alvaro knockup sets up perfectly for Jojopyun to follow through. They managed to finish off any sort of threat on towards Supa, and he's happy to follow through then to pick off the remaining members of Fnatic.
I tried to go on the Zeri. I mean, Qiyana.
You can see there, just kind of like, there's not a whole lot to react to. Just, you know, you're trying, but when you're 7,500 gold down, when you have to go with the flash Pantheon stun to try to initiate
you just throw
the fight.
Hail Mary.
Yeah, you're just trying to play for the 2% chance because otherwise it's a 1, right? And now
where does
Oscar
health bar go?
Yeah, I don't think this Ambessa is long for this world. That is not Ambessa from Arcane, my friend. That one is, that one's out of here.
Well, to be fair, Arcane didn't go too well for her either. You know,
okay, all right, you got me there. Sorry for anybody who hasn't watched it yet. I guess that might be a possibly inferable spoil. But now it's 13,000 gold plus a Dragon Soul plus about 24 petals advantage, so that's about 2,000 gold's worth of adaptive force, and Baron is on the map. So if you're MKOI, it feels like a pretty safe bet. You can just take this Baron, force him to come answer, and then you either get the Baron and run into their base, or you just ace him and you probably don't even need it at that point.
Yeah, I think if you're Fnatic, you hope that for a brief second, MKOI forget how to play the game for about 5 to 10 seconds, don't hit any of their buttons, and then you have a chance.
That's pretty much what it's going to require, but you can see on your screen right now, it only takes Elyoya and Supa to kill the Baron off. Myrwn and Jojo can just cover these flanks, make sure nobody from Fnatic can approach, and sure enough, Fnatic's not even going to try. Gold lead approaching 15,000 now, Baron in their pockets. It's a 1,500 Red Bull Baron power play because there was no attempt from Fnatic to try to stop it, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see the Nexus explode before that timer runs out.
Yeah, I agree, Flares. I don't really think there's much here on Fnatic's side to try and uphold. 3 items on the Cassiopeia is a decent spot to be, but it's just everything else is so in favor of MKOI. I just don't think you have a chance, but here we go. One more play. Can Fnatic do it? Well,
there's already a ward right where the unsealed teleport was coming in from Mikyx. Jojo flashes to the other side, but Mickey's ready to flash after him. Alvaro coming in to cover for his mid laner as Jojo is still alive now. Fnatic continue trying to press the assault, but now Myrwn is charging in from behind. A supreme display of talent right back into the wall. Fnatic tried, Fnatic died. There's no way to stop MKOI now. Oscarinin's the only one standing. It's a double kill for Elyoya there. An ace to end the game, 24-7 with an 18,000 gold lead. What'll be a 20,000 gold lead, I would have to think, by the end of this one. We'll see if those towers give it to us. It'll be just shy, but it won't matter. 27 minutes into the game, MKOI slam game number 1.
That was sheer and utter dominance from the MKOI side. I mean, Fnatic just didn't look like they showed up at all.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was a little close early, right? We got to see them make the play. Razork got the first blood, swooping around on the side on Jojo, so that was good. I liked the punish there on the aggressive early flashes, but after that, once MKOI got ahead, they just never really gave it up.
Yeah, and I think it was, again, really good coordination between Elyoya and Alvaro, getting that vision, making the play set up, and making things very difficult for Fnatic.
All right, that's game number 1 done and taken care of. MKOI are looking good. Desk, what do you guys think?